Thomas Loren Friedman is an American political commentator and author. He is a three-time Pulitzer Prize winner who is a weekly columnist for the New York Times. He has written extensively on foreign affairs, global trade, the Middle East, globalization, and environmental issues. Today we review Mr. Friedman's article in The Washington Post, February 20th, 2024. The writer is using satire to criticize Donald Trump and the GOP for their perceived betrayal of Ukraine and their willingness to prioritize loyalty to Trump over principles and national interests. The proposed fundraising scheme, involving selling white flags autographed by Trump and his allies, mocks their actions as surrendering to Russia and abandoning their values. The writer highlights the hypocrisy and opportunism of certain GOP members, such as J.D. Vance and Lindsey Graham, who are portrayed as sacrificing principles for personal gain and favor with Trump. Overall, the writer's point is to condemn what they see as the GOP's moral bankruptcy and lack of integrity in the face of Trump's influence.
All right, folks, buckle up for this one. Strap yourselves in as we dive into the absolute dumpster fire that is Trump's GOP and their mishandling of the Ukraine crisis. Can you believe the audacity of these fakers?
Listen up, America. We're witnessing a bunch of spineless sycophants led by none other than Donald Trump himself, cozying up to Vladimir Putin while Ukrainian lives hang in the balance. It's a disgrace.
Instead of standing up for what's right, these GOP clowns are bending over backward to please their dear leader. They'd rather kiss up to Trump than protect our national interest or support our allies. Shameful.
And don't even get me started on their pathetic excuse for foreign policy, cutting off aid to Ukraine. Seriously? That's not just shameful, it's downright dangerous. We're talking about people's lives here.
But oh no! Trump and his cronies are too busy playing their performative games, pretending to be tough guys while putting us all at risk. Well, newsflash, folks, the world doesn't revolve around Trump's ego.
It's time to wake up and smell the corruption. America, these GOP phonies couldn't care less about you or me. They're too busy chasing after Trump's approval, selling out our values in the process.
So while they're busy playing their fake games, our enemies are lurking in the shadows, ready to pounce. It's time to ditch the fakery and get real about protecting our country and standing up for what's right.
I'm a 75-year-old college-educated veteran. I never imagined I would see such a low standard for leadership, especially with these blatant betrayals of the righteous qualities that were once ingrained in our nation's bedrock principles. It is truly amazing to see these men fall, revealing that they were hollow all along.
I'm from South Carolina and have followed Lindsey Graham's career for decades. 2 observations. First, he grew up poor in a very small town. What he loves more than anything is being in the mix. He was blessed with charm and good humor. Al Franken once called him the funniest person in Congress, and he's used that to cultivate relationships with powerful men who might further his career, John McCain and now Donald Trump. Although Graham cares about issues, nothing is more important to him than power and proximity to power. Second, I think something happened to Graham when he lost in the primaries in 2016 to Trump. He famously excoriated Trump before that, and I think he said to himself, okay, so if that's who the American people want instead of me, I'm all in. I don't care anymore. I'd have pity for Lindsey Graham as a man who has lost all his moral bearings, he if weren't so powerful and so dangerous to our entire nation. People like him endanger our country and are nothing more than political obscenities.
If you want to know the real problem with Republicans, read on. I moved out of California 2 years ago because of drought, wildfires, and the smoke from the fires, and I was lucky to be able to afford to do so. I also wanted to get away while I could still sell my house there for a good price. Increasingly expensive and unavailable insurance and mortgage costs help to depress property values. These fast-growing cities in the southwestern U.S., what will the homeowners do when the grid can't keep up with intensifying heat waves and the taps run dry and they can't sell their houses? How will they afford moving elsewhere? The same goes for our great coastal cities. We may see 10 feet or more of sea level rise this century, 1 and Category 6 hurricanes. How will people there be able to move if they can't sell their houses? Wealthy countries could become ungovernable from that alone. Never mind the collapse of agriculture as droughts and heat waves intensify. Yet every single Republican senator is adamantly against trying to slow down the coming storm.
Why aren't people out? Actually out in the real world, protesting Trump, outside the courthouse demanding justice, outside protesting his role in the assault on the Capitol, his policies, his dream of tyranny. Where are we? I want to go outside. Will anyone join me? Are Democrats anywhere planning anything? Why not?
Obviously, everything Friedman writes is clearly correct, and everybody knows it. Yet still it falls on deaf ears of those being called out. How can the truth of something so devastating be of such little consequence to the very people who should feel devastated? It blows my mind. Has there ever been a clearer example of powerful people lacking all shame and sense of honesty? At least when Nixon went down in a flame of lies, most Republicans joined in the denunciations of him.
My mom's maternal grandmother lived to be 100. My dad's mom died at 99, so I think I've got pretty good genes on both sides. And I'm hoping to live long enough to see the history textbooks in schools in Canada, the US, who knows, do a really good job of describing Trump and his coterie of sycophants, and what they wrought before he was found guilty in multiple criminal trials in US courts of law, prior to being crushed by the American electorate in the 2024 general election.
I think this editorial is missing a key point. Today's religious right believes Trump and Putin are their path to dominance and cleansing the others from power. Then there's a bunch of Republican congressmen who either believe this fantasy or think they can make some real money from it. My messages to the religious right are: 1. No one is trying to take away your rights to practice your faith, so relax. And 2. Trump and Putin are just using you for their own gain. They only care about themselves.
I might understand if Trump had a philosophy or religion he strongly believed in all his life. But he has nothing. Why would otherwise intelligent people sign on and sell their soul for nothing? These same people wouldn't buy a used car from Trump.
I am more than delighted to see the GOP implode, but livid at what the GOP is doing to this country and the world.
Liz Cheney, whatever you may think of her, succinctly said what Friedman imparts here. On the congressional hearings into January 6th, tonight, I say this to my Republican colleagues who are defending the indefensible. There will come a day when Donald Trump is gone, but your dishonor will remain. Amen. Well said. Now here is Judgy Judgerston with the final comments.
All right, listen up, folks, because I'm about to lay it out for you in plain and simple terms. Why on earth are these guys rallying behind Trump? Well, let me tell you, it's a circus act of cowardice and self-serving behavior that would make a snake oil salesman blush. Picture this: Trump and his cronies waving their white flags of surrender, while they line their pockets with cash from their deluded supporters. They've abandoned any semblance of principle, integrity, or loyalty to our nation, all for a chance to cozy up to the man himself. And what's their excuse? Oh, it's all about America first, they say. But let me tell you, it's more like Trump first, America last. They're willing to throw Ukraine under the bus, let Putin run rampant, and jeopardize our national security just to keep their spots on Trump's good side. But here's the kicker. While they're busy playing their little games, our enemies are licking their chops, ready to pounce on our vulnerabilities. It's a disgrace. And don't even get me started on their so-called foreign policy. It's like watching a bunch of toddlers playing with matches in a fireworks factory. They tear up deals without a plan, cozy up to dictators, and put us all in harm's way. So, America, wake up and smell the corruption. These GOP clowns are nothing but puppets on Trump's string, dancing to his tune while our country burns. It's time to hold them accountable and demand real leadership before it's too late.